Narayana. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We are in Amrit Anubhav, chapter 5, Satchidananda Padatrai Vivarna, evaluation and inadequacy of the terms Satchit and Ananda. So this is something different that you people have been exposed, or if you have heard about it before. Here in the introduction, Swamiji says, Sant Jnaneshwar Maharaj started the first chapter by introducing an approach to the three factors which are common points of inquiry in any philosophical work. And they are Jeev, Jagat, Ishwar. That is this world where we find ourselves to be in. Taking the potential and potentiality, Shiva and Shakti, the identity between the two was established, that they are inseparable, they are one and the same. And what is the relationship between each other, that they are the one Paramashiva alone, as if is manifesting as the Shiva and Shakti. When he becomes aware of his potentiality, he is called as Shiva. And all that we saw. This identity between Shiva and Shakti can be cognized by the student only by the grace of the Guru, only by the grace of the teacher or the Guru. And total surrender brings the Guru's grace. So here it was clearly told, Guru Tattva, coming close, surrendering to Guru Tattva. The Guru means the Guru Tattva. Where is Guru Tattva? Guru Tattva is inside, outside. There is no place that the Guru Tattva is not. But where do we seek it? Within ourselves. Then how do we know that we are coming close to it? When our disposition shifts from condemning, judging, biasness, we go through this world, and every moment the world is reaching us in some way or the other. And when we learn from every event, every incident, every experience, every contact, every association, and that becomes an impetus for us to come back to the Shiva Shakti principle and eventually Paramashiva, meaning the infinite reality, then we know we are coming close to the Guru Tattva. And that Guru Tattva, who is teaching you? The teacher. Of course, the teacher. Jnaneshwar Maharaj is teaching us. Swamiji is teaching us through his words. I am teaching you through exposition on what is written. But that also, all these three are also his manifestation only. And Guru Tattva is not one per person. Just as Shiva Tattva is not one per person. The Shakti is not one per person. Paramashiva is not one per person. Nothing is one per person. This one per person is imagination, a fallacy that needs to be removed from our mind. Coming close to Guru Tattva, coming close to the infinite reality is the melting down of all differences. If that is happening in our daily living, slowly but surely, then understand that our approach by the grace of the divine is going in the right direction. But if differences are maintained, sense of otherness is maintained, then we are listening, but not really listening. And total surrender brings the Guru's grace. In worldly life, the drama starts when the curtain goes up. In the divine life, when the curtain falls down, avarna, the drama begins. How beautiful. When we go to a theater, the curtain goes up, the drama begins. And in spiritual, in our what do you call, in the spiritual life or in the divine life, in this world of Jiv Jagat Ishwar, when we, wherever we find ourselves to be in, when does the drama begin? The moment the curtain falls, meaning the veil falls, meaning the covering, the truth gets covered by the curtain. And what is the truth getting covered by? Where is the truth? You are the truth. Where is the curtain? Your ignorance about yourself is the truth, is the curtain. And thereafter, that truth appears as the variety, and then the drama begins. The variety keeps interacting with itself. When the curtain of ignorance goes up, the drama of the jiva struggle is over. When the curtain goes up means when the ignorance is over. When will be the ignorance over? Only when we surrender to the Guru's grace, only when we surrender to the infinite reality subjectively, not intellectually, subjectively. No doubt is left thereafter. In this way, the lifting of the curtain, the veil of ignorance, is called the grace of the Lord or the Guru. In other words, Lord and the Guru, Shiva, Shiva Tattva, Parama Shiva alone is Shiva and Shakti. And that Shiva Tattva or the Shakti Tattva, both are there in the Guru Maharaj. So there is no difference between these three terms, Paramashiva, Shiva Shakti, and the Guru. They are one and the same. This grace was explained in the second chapter, where we saw what was Jnaneshwar Maharaj's take or his surrender or his understanding or his relationship with the Guru Maharaj. And that we saw exhaustively in that chapter. Then in the third chapter dealt with the four speeches. It is stated that if a spiritual seeker wants to remain in the waking state and to understand the complete truth, from that frame of reference, he is attempting an impossible, meaning to understand the truth. Majority of the people, seekers, what they want to live in the waking world and realize the truth, which is an impossibility. The person, the waker, is putting on the hat of the seeker. This waking personality has to be annihilated, destroyed, melted, dissolved absorbed. There is no way the waker can have the experience of the sleep. The waker has to go out of existence, meaning has to vanish, has to be absorbed completely. Not even a teeny mini bit can be remaining behind before sleep begins. Exactly the same way. We want to live in this world as an individual. And we have got this fanciful idea that we want to realize. And we want to realize like we are realizing this world. It is not possible. What is this world? It is other than me. I want to realize, is realization a laddu which you can catch and eat? Not possible. So this misunderstanding has to go out of our intellect. That maintaining the intellect, meaning maintaining the differences, meaning the intellect's job is only one. What is that? To interact with something objectively. That is what intellect is. And as long as that separation is maintained, the intellect will not be dissolved. So for that, something different needs to be invoked. You have to think. Yes, you have, the only opportunity you have is the intellect with which you can think. But it must think about something that which cannot be conceptualized, that which cannot be experienced, that which cannot be objectified, that which cannot be given a form or a word or an experience, which cannot become an object of cognition for the intellect. Even if you catch this point and you don't study any scriptures, it will, and pursue that I need to pursue something that which cannot be conceptualized by the intellect. The grace will take over. Therefore, all the four planes of consciousnesses corresponding to the four vanis must be transcended by the readiness and ability to think in terms of the totality, and must go beyond the four layers of expressions in the relative world of thought. Relativity is where the sense of difference, the sense of otherness is the norm. And what is this? That all the four planes of consciousnesses, what are the four planes of consciousnesses? Waking consciousness, dream consciousness, sleep consciousness, and meditation. Turiya avastha. All these four planes of consciousnesses, meaning the four vanis, meaning Vaikhari, Madhyama, Pashyanti, Para. This is the debt that we are paying to the Guru Tattva, to the Lord. What is this debt? Oh, we, even though we are that one, we are imagining ourselves to be an individual. Now you have to, as an individual, you have to pay some debt because you have taken something and said that this is mine, this is mine, this is mine, that is mine. This birth was mine. Now I'm 80 years old or 60 years old or 70 years old. I am. This, you have taken what is not yours. So now you have to pay it back. And how do you pay it back? Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti Para. Is transcended by the readiness and ability to think in terms of the totality. Readiness and ability. Readiness about what? Readiness about the acceptance that everything is one. In fact, one is, that's full stop. Intellect, as I just said, thinks only about this versus that. That is mind. See, there is subject and object. That is what intellect is. And what is this intellect being prodded to contemplate on? That everything is one. That the husband is not other than other than me, the children are not other than me, the trees are not other than me, the mountains are not other than me, the river is not other than me, all the good and bad in this world is not other than me. Oh my God, that is a lot of responsibility. If nothing is other than me. Okay, to make it a little bit more palatable, then it is said, oh, the consciousness that you are, that consciousness alone is expressing through the donkey, through the horse, through the cow, through the animals, through the insects, through all the human beings. Nay, through all the same consciousness that you are is expressing through all the gods also. Because we are egoistic. Oh, I am expressing, yeah, I can accept that. Or some people are afraid. How can that be possible? How can that be possible? Yes, intellect will never accept it. Intellect can never experience it. So don't open your eyes and look around. Oh, that is me roaming around. How can I am here and my daughter is, I am the consciousness here in this body. How can I be the consciousness in the daughter or in the son or in the people or in the murderer or in the thief, in the Hitler or in the Saddam Hussein or in the Gandhi or all the saints and sages, the same consciousness. Oh my God. It is not our experience at the moment. But we must think out of the box. And what is the box? This intellect is our box. This intellect had decided, due to ignorance, what conclusion it has come to, that I am only this body. Who has said that? Intellect has said that. Why? It has been programmed that way. Now what you do? Okay, you can't, you don't know how to delete the program, replace it with something else. What is that? No, consciousness is one without a second, it is everywhere. It's not my experience. Continue thinking, continue contemplating. How? Vaikhari madhyama pashyanti para. Slowly, slowly, if you are sincerely pursuing it in that manner, the melting of the individuality, the jiva bhav. Jiva bhav is an imaginary personality born out of ignorance, which is expressing as identification with the causal, subtle, and gross. So now slowly the gross individuality is melted, then the subtle individuality is melted, and then you bypass the causal individuality also. What is that? Waker is dissolved, dreamer is dissolved, and the deep sleeper is bypassed to meditation. And eventually that also is dissolved. This is the process. But until and unless you may be ready, here Swamiji says the readiness and the ability. You may be ready, but we have to apply. Application brings out the dormant ability within us. Muscles are in everyone. You have to go to the gym to exercise, then the muscles will get developed. Did they come from outside? No. Where they came from? From within. A small child is there. That child is not born speaking, but is the potential of speaking in the child? Yes. And as that child gets exposed and goes to school and learns mathematics, science, biology, learns to speak, learns to formulate the sentences clearly. So where did that come from? Did that come from outside? No, it came from within. Just as the fire is within the wood, it needs to be invoked. It is inherent within the wood. See? So same way, the truth is our substratum, is our true nature, which is covered by so many layers, as if. And those layers we have taken, waken, dream, deep sleep, samadhi, we have taken them as real. Now start dissolving. Dissolution process will begin only when we accept we are the all-pervading in essence, that we are one without a second in essence. Until unless that we are not, this statement we are not convinced, our intellect is not convinced, you will not be ready, and nor you will be able. For being able, we have to give up our tamas, we have to give up our inertia. Many people think they are only intellectual. But they're, just because we are listening to Vedanta, just because we have got itch to inquire about what? Inquire only about the world, inquire about the truth, then it's okay. How do you know that you are inquiring? Or find out in your own spare time when you are all by yourself. Are you able to, is your mind able to sit with itself without any support, contemplating on itself, what is my nature? The mind, I'm saying. Mind is saying, what is my nature? Meaning, I is saying, what is my nature? Or it is able to sit with the japa for a long period of time without any disturbance of any thoughts. Majority people, why they are running around everywhere? It's only because they are not able to sit with themselves. COVID has made us, majority of the people, has made them stop. You know, like when we get to the, nowadays you don't see that, but for children, stop, look and go. Red, amber and green. Green is go. So this COVID is like stop, look and go. Stop, look. In what direction is your life going? What conclusions in your life you have adhered to or you are following? Have they worked for you? Have they given us the happiness? Are they giving us the ultimate, taking us closer to the ultimate goal? Look, assess. And having assessed and having found out where we are and where we are falling short, get set, ready, and then start working towards it. No, grace, let the grace flow. It will happen when it has to happen. That is what you call, that is escapism. We have to put efforts. As long as we are an individual, we have to put efforts. Therefore, readiness. And then it's whatever you are ready about. Like, last night I went to sleep late. Why? I was tired and I was ready to sleep. Okay, go. But till I don't get into the bed, will I be able to sleep? No. Then in the morning, I got up and I was ready to get up, meaning I'm still in the bed. Mind is saying, oh, it's already 5 o'clock, 5 more minutes, 2 more minutes. But then where is my attention? Oh, 7 o'clock, I got a class. then I have to shake this tamas. Where is the tamas? Not only in the mind, but it's in the mind because it is identified with the body and the body is lying in the bed. Ah, maja aa gaya. Shake it, get out. And immediately, the moment you get under the shower, all the tamas goes away, all the inertia goes away. And this is true in everything, whether you are studying, whether you are having a particular. The other day, someone told me, Swamiji, oh, Friday आ गया, मजा आ गया, you know. मैंने कहा यार इस चक्कर में से निकल जाओ. Every Friday you think, thank God it is Friday. And every Monday you think, oh God, it is Monday. You know, you are, just because the society is thinking in this way, you don't have to think that way and make those two statements to program you. And now you are always looking forward to Friday and always not looking forward to Monday. What a pathetic disposition. And here we are, for us, every day is a Monday and every day is a Friday. And every day is a Sunday also. See? But we have to invoke that within us, that disposition. So, Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti Para. Don't straight away go into Madhyama and Pashyanti. Oh, I sit in silence. You know, it is so beautiful. No, never sit in silence. Initially begin with, if you are doing japa, don't sit in silence. Japa means Vaikhari. Japa means loud chanting. When are you qualified to sit in silence? When, as a result of Vaikhari, you are slowly, your mind is pulled into subtle chanting, mental chanting, and what is the consequence? The outside world is not having an impact on your mind. The internal world of the mind is not having an impact on your mind. Then you are qualified to sit in silence. Then what do I do? Oh, that will take long time. Yes, so chant the mantra. Chant Om Namo Narayanaya. Loudly, joyfully, with full faith and devotion. Whether it is Guru's mantra, whether it is Om, whether it is any God's mantra, does not matter. It is only a technique by which we dissolve our gross mind and our subtle mind and our causal mind. And eventually, the individuality also, by going beyond para. Now, such a simple sadhana is given. In Kali Yuga, this is not the point here, but in these times, best way is to continuously keep humming the mantra, keep chanting the mantra. Nobody is asking you to go and dig a well and go and construct an orphanage or go and give donation or do this or do that. Or wherever you are, keep chanting the mantra. One must go beyond the 4 layers of expressions in the relative world of thoughts. Thoughts are only in the relative plane. Thoughts are not in the absolute plane. Thoughts are not there in the causal plane also. Why? They are unmanifest. So thoughts are only in the relative. Relative means where there is a continuous flux of waking, dream, deep sleep, samadhi, waking, dream, deep sleep, samadhi, waking, dream, deep sleep, samadhi, inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside. This is going on. Wherever there is flux, and as long as we are in the flux, chant the mantra loudly. With the clear understanding, this mantra is not, you are not doing a favor on the Lord, you are not doing a favor on the divine. It is your need. It is our need to chant this mantra, to dissolve this individuality, this obsession with the waking world, with the obsession with the dream world, with the obsession that ignorance is bliss. This obsession also needs to go away. And the fourth obsession is that I have come to know consciousness. I am the consciousness, but the other rest of the world is ignorant. That is samadhi. This is the fourth obsession. See? Listening is one part. Here the knowledge is coming. But for this knowledge, which you are doing Shravanam right now, how does it get consolidated? How does it hit its mark? Just like you take a lighter and you put it to the kindling wood and the wood catches fire. Will the wood catch fire if it is wet? No. Then what will come? Dhua niklega. There will be smoke. So when we listen to these satsangs, smoke comes out. Why? Because nothing changes afterwards. Then what do we need to do? How does this satsang act as a spark which lights the fire which is inherent within, the fire of contemplation? How? For that you need to be able. You need to be dry. That's why in Upanishad it is told, Samit Pani Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. Samit Pani means carry the dry twigs on your head when you go to the teacher. Not wet wood. How do you create that stay? What is that indicating? What is the wetness? What is the gilapan in you? The gilapan is all the thoughts, all the wrong notions, all the indulgence in past and future. Then how do I get out of it? How do I dry up this wetness? Dry up all the unwanted thoughts? Do japa. It will dry up. So that is the practice. You keep listening to this and do the yoga, japa of yoga, yoga of japa. Japa yoga is the ultimate, according to Narad Bhakti Sutra. Or even in the 10th chapter or 9th chapter, Bhagavan also said that. Among the yogas, I am the japa yoga. He did not say Ashtanga yoga. He did not say pranayama. He did not say samadhi abhyas. He said japa yoga is the shreshtham. See? So the more we do japa incessantly, suddenly you will find that the words that you are hearing in a satsang are hitting their mark every time. What does that mean? That you are dry, and the moment the spark of the word comes to your mind through the teacher, there and then the knowledge takes place. There's no delay. There's no lag. Then when there is lag, what do we do when there is dry wood, wet wood? We put camphor there and we put some dry twigs, or we put some paper so that some around it heat is generated so that that wood dries. But there is no guarantee. If it is too wet, then it is very difficult. It takes a lot. Till then, it will keep smoking. So what do we need to do? In order to, whatever is being heard, the Shravanam, immediately hits the mark there and then, so that you don't have to revisit that again. We need to do the japa sadhana, the previous third chapter of Amrit Anubhav. See? The fourth chapter dealt with undifferentiated pure knowledge, in which no differentiation, bheda of knower known knowledge is possible. all knowledge, including the japa sadhana that you are doing, every thought that comes in our mind is because of three factors: subject, object, and the instrument of knowledge. Seer is the subject, seen is the object, seeing is the instrument of knowledge. Same way, experiencer experienced experiencing, knower known knowing, observer observed observing, hearer heard hearing, and this way it goes on. Continuously, we are at its mercy of these thoughts. And what is this undifferentiated knowledge? This undifferentiated knowledge is where one has gone beyond the triputi, one has gone beyond the, the subject and the object and the instrument. And as long as we are an individual, as we are going through Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti, we saw, and I will repeat it again in short, what is that? You cannot remove the thoughts of ignorance by something else. You have to remove the thoughts of ignorance by thoughts of knowledge. That is the only option we have left. Because we have got only one mind. And in this mind, if I am in waking and I want to go to sleep, I have to stop thinking about the waking experiences and I initiate thinking about sleep, and eventually all the thoughts of the waking go away, and then I merge into the sleep when the thought of sleep also goes away. Exactly the same way. What did we do? We invoked the thought of sleep, which counteracted with the thoughts of the waking, and we were totally focused that we need the rest, we need the silence, we need to offload ourselves with everything from the daytime, from the waking plane of consciousness, because by doing that, we will be refreshed next morning. That is our data. And therefore, single-pointedly, we are, in spite of everything going on around us, we are focused on the sleep. And without doing anything, all the thoughts of the waking, they leave our mind. When all of them have left, the last thought of the waking is leaving or has gone, has dissolved, then there is no need for the thought of sleep to maintain itself. We don't have to keep thinking. Then that also drops away because now it is not required. And that when that drops away, we merge into the sleep. Exactly the same process happens in this undifferentiated knowledge. The thoughts of ignorance are replaced with thoughts of knowledge. Aham Brahmasmi, suppose, or japa mantra, Om, you take chant Om. Or why you are chanting Om? Because you want to offload your waking dream, deep sleep and samadhi experience. Why you want to do? Because you are tired of the cyclical life. And what are you trying to achieve or gain? You want to gain immortality. You want to be permanently free. You want to be permanently free. You want to be permanently happy. Which seems like a far away destination, but it is closer than the closest. So then what do we do? Okay, how do we know that that destination is actually existing? Because we haven't experienced it. Sleep we have experienced, so we approach it again and again. So realization we haven't experienced. Then we have got to, our scriptures tell us about it. And what scriptures tell us, the great masters have realized it and they say, no, what scriptures are saying is true because we have experienced that. And people have experienced such masters. They are living today also. So then what did they do? They went beyond their obsession with the waking. They went beyond with their obsession with the dream. They went beyond with their obsession of sleep. They went beyond with their obsession of meditation. Even though meditation is required, no doubt, but we have to go beyond it. Because as long as you are in these four states, duality is maintained. And what are we seeking? Undifferentiated knowledge, undifferentiated consciousness, which is swatantra, which is free forever. That is freedom forever. That is our nature. And we are carrying this load of the body, the load of memories, the load of expectations, the load of family, the load of possessions, the load of security, the load of quick buck, the load of kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, the load of guilts, the load of regrets. All this is load. And because of this load, all the mental problems are there in the society. And you see a Mahatma who has got nothing and yet he is happy. I want to be there. When I'm in that Mahatma's presence, I also feel very carefree and I'm happy. And I don't know why I'm smiling, but I'm smiling and I'm fully awake. Can I recreate that? Yes, you are of that nature. Then what do I have to do? Chant the mantra. And come to be the undifferentiated consciousness. So it is not that mind is not conscious. Mind is also consciousness, but it is conditioned. So in that mind, we just like we invoke the thought of sleep, we invoke the thought of Om or some japa mantra or the Aham Brahmasmi. What does it act as? It acts as a buffer against all the thoughts of waking, dream, deep sleep, and samadhi, depending where you are at. If you are in the waking, you're obsessed with the waking, then all the challenges, obstacles, demands, aspirations, regrets of the waking, anxieties of the waking, fear of the waking, they will be kept at bay. And that is directly proportional to your love, surrender, faith, dedication, clarity, where your mantra is taking you. And when naturally you move into the Vaikhari, to Madhyama, and that will only be possible when waking world is not disturbing you even an iota, only then you will go and stay there. Then the subtle world, in the mind is full of imaginations. It will keep popping up, pop-ups keep coming. Then we transcend that also. Why? We are focused on Om, we are focused on Aham Brahmasmi, we are focused on our mantra. How? With faith, devotion, dedication, regularity, with clarity of the journey, not mechanically. Mechanically, nothing is going to happen. Mechanically, only one thing will happen. You'll get a good, you'll go to heavens, and then that is also a theory. You'll go to heavens and you'll get a good family in the next birth. But if you are thinking about going to heavens and getting next good family in the next birth, that means you are not committed to the truth. Because truth is here and now. Why you want to delay till next life? Why you want to delay till the last breath in this life? Why you want to delay till tomorrow? I'll start from tomorrow. No, I think Ram Navami I'll start. No, I think Krishna Janmashtami I'll start. No, Guru Purnima is a very auspicious day. That day I'll start. No, I think I'll start on my birthday. Keep keep delaying, keep delaying, keep delaying. For such a person, they will hear all this, but nothing is going to happen. We have to be committed. So we invoke these mantras to act as a buffer. So vritti jnanam counteracts vritti ajnanam. And when, just as the example that was taken was just as when the fire is lit on the camphor, what is the fuel for the fire, for the flame? The camphor itself. How long will the flame burn? As long as there is camphor. When the last bit of flame of camphor is consumed, the flame suddenly increases in its size and brightness and eventually collapses. Because there's no more fuel. So, vritti jnanam, contemplation on the Om or any other mantra, that is vritti jnanam, thought knowledge. It is, what is the fuel for this thought knowledge? Vritti ajnanam. And as the fuel is getting consumed, what is the fuel? Not only your thoughts of the waking dream, deep sleep, and samadhi, but also all the subconscious thoughts, desires, everything becomes the fuel. As I said, the dissolution of the vritti ajnanam is directly proportional to your commitment, faith, devotion, regularity, with the vritti jnanam. And once mind has become free of all other distractions, all other thoughts, now naturally only the thought of vritti jnanam is there. Now the last bit has been consumed. Now there is no need. And as this dissolution is happening of vritti ajnanam, automatically your clarity, your knowledge, your wisdom is increasing. You're enjoying your own company. Everything is known without too much of struggle, without too much of efforts. And then eventually, when the last bit of vritti ajnanam is consumed, the vritti jnanam, which was the flame, it also flares up and then dissolves. And what happens? You are with yourself. Then you are you. After that, then if thoughts come, because phenomena is going to continue till this body is there, if the thoughts come, doesn't matter. It does not corrupt you after that. We are not talking about samadhi. If you go into samadhi and you come out, the thoughts, the world still troubles you. So you want to run to an ashram, you want to run to an India, you want to run to a cave. It is still disturbing you. So which means we are not established. When we have come to abide in our true nature, then we are not against the presence of thoughts, nor we are against the absence of thoughts. Just like the sun, example taken in the last chapter was, thus without the sun, day and night will not be possible. So is the sun preferring day and not preferring the night? No, from the sun's point of view, there is no day and there is no night. But day and night cannot express without the sun. Exactly the same way. Exactly the same way. Now, if I want to put all the thoughts into 4 categories. What are the 4 categories? Waking, dream, deep sleep, and samadhi. These are also thoughts, which then become the womb. The waking thought becomes the womb of all the thoughts in the waking experience, and so on. See? So such a person who has come to undifferentiated consciousness or knowledge, for him, there is no vritti jnanam and no vritti ajnanam, because consciousness is one without a second. Consciousness is sarvam khalvidam Brahma. Brahman is inside, outside. There is no place that it is not. In fact, there is no inside, outside from Brahman's point of view. From consciousness, pure consciousness point of view, there is no inside and outside. It is only in the empirical disposition that we are saying that Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, meaning he is pervading everywhere. But there is no everywhere for Brahman, because he alone is. There is no boundary for him. There is nothing to compare for Brahman with something or someone. So how can he even say, I am Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma? How can he say that I am one without a second? He can't. Who can say? Ishvara can say. But Brahman cannot say. Paramashiva cannot say. Shiva can say that. See? So in this manner, the Bheda of knower known knowledge is not possible in the undifferentiated knowledge. And who are you? You are the undifferentiated knowledge, meaning you are not the mind. You are the pure consciousness. Mind is the phenomena. Mind, intellect, we are just using the word mind. Mind is the phenomena. In that mind, the concept of waking, dream, deep sleep, the concept of waking world, dream world, deep sleep world, and samadhi world is coming and going. Get out of, accept who you are in essence. Get convinced. Nobody else can do it to you. No amount of lectures, no amount of Mahatmas putting their hand on your head. You have experienced the bliss of being in the presence of masters. When you go to Ammachi's presence, you feel that way. When Swamiji used to come, we used to feel that way. I don't know if you have come across other masters. Tejo Menanji, same. But it's temporary. Where has that feeling gone now? Where has that feeling gone? It's like you go close to the fire, you feel warm. When you go away from the fire, फिर से ठंड लग गई. Again you are cold. Until unless you don't generate the heat from within. What do you do for generating heat within? Take cold water bath, do Agnisar, do Ujjayi, your body will be warm. Now you don't need any other support. See? Or best, get body disidentified, you will never feel cold or hot. See? So now, if we have come to this undifferentiated knowledge, that was the topic of the 4th chapter. Undifferentiated pure consciousness. Now in the 5th chapter, the Jnaneshwar Maharaj takes up another theme and presents it in such an unusual and beautiful manner that one feels as if all those convictions and concepts one has been holding on to are slipping away from one's hands. That is in keeping with scriptural teaching, which does not allow the seeker to hold on to any support of any concept or any belief, because of all this lies in the realm of duality and individuality. So what was the concept that we had harbored within our mind? Om is everything, Om is the whole. The Om is the reality, the pure consciousness, this undifferentiated consciousness. You know what it is? It is Satchidananda Swarup, it is Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swarup, it is Ekameva Dvitiya Swarup, it is Sarvam Khalva Brahma, Sarvam Khalvam Brahma Swarup. It is unborn, it is omniscient, it is omnipotent, it is self-luminous. And all these, oh, really, 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 reality is all that. Fantastic. I am that. Wow. Because how do you talk about undifferentiated knowledge? You are talking of undifferentiated knowledge only through words. Undifferentiated knowledge, undifferentiated pure consciousness / knowledge is also a word. We have to go beyond the word. Oh, but you just said that master is not disturbed by the words or no words. You have not got there yet, even though it is your nature. If you can see you are not getting disturbed, then good. If you say that I'm not disturbed, then you are disturbed. You're not there to prove to anyone anything. Because if you try to prove and make a statement, which means duality is still valid for us. From undifferentiated pure consciousness point of view, there is no duality possible. Oh, but we see Mahatmas, doing everything, waking, sleeping, eating. You see it. He is not seeing himself do anything. You can't even imagine, cannot fathom what must be his disposition from the conscious, from the undifferentiated consciousness point of view. We can't even imagine. And it is not a copy paste. Each Mahatma is different. Each Mahatma is different. Unique. But the abidance is the same. Just like all of us are bodies. 2 hands, 2 legs, eyes, nose, ears. But every body is unique, isn't it? Same way. Every Mahatma is unique. But in essence, they are the same. It is that one consciousness. So now here, the true seeker is neither the support nor the supported. Again, when we talk about support and supported, we are in the relative world. We have created differences. The support, the example taken is that of the anvil. On the kutastha, on the anvil, the blacksmith uses that metal on which he brings the hot metal and molds it into shape. He can't mold the hot metal into shape without a base. So what is the base? What is the support? What is the substratum? We use this word so often, so freely. Substratum, foundation, common denominator, the constant, pure consciousness. So all are same. Then if it is the substratum of what? Oh, substratum of all the experiences. Now, substratum and the experiences, they become opposite to each other. The river bed is the base and the river, and it is supporting the flow of the river. So is the river bed the river? No. So river bed is separate to the river. Same way, support and the supported, supporter and the supported. This is being talked about. This is our relative experience. But the truth, the pure consciousness is neither the support nor the supported. Why? Is the gold supporting, is the gold support of the ornaments? Depends where you are looking from. An ignorant will say, yes, gold is the substratum. We use that language, no? Gold is the substratum of all the ornaments. That is in the beginning classes. But is the ornament without the gold? It cannot be without the gold. It is pervaded by the gold. So how come gold is supporting the gold? It doesn't need, it's a zero sum. As we go, become clearer, as we come closer to the conscious principle, as we are more focused on the vritti jnanam rather than vritti ajnanam, then we'll realize this language of support and supported, the language of substratum and the language of all the changes which cannot happen without the substratum. This language also is defunct. It has got no validity. Because from the undifferentiated knowledge point of view or disposition, the supporter is also the undifferentiated knowledge, and the supported also is the undifferentiated knowledge. Is the water supporting the wave and the ocean? The supported? No, water is the wave and the ocean. But from water's point of view, there is no wave and there is no ocean. But from relative point, from relativity, what is relative? Ocean and wave is the relativity. They'll say, oh, our substratum is water, and the wave is saying, I am on the journey of realization. What do you want to realize? Oh, I want to realize the water, But it is already that. So now come to the undifferentiated knowledge. What is the undifferentiated knowledge? The position of water. Is it supporting any wave? From water's point of view, there is no wave. So the idea of duality totally becomes null and void from the absolute standpoint. And that is our true disposition. That is who we essentially are. Until we don't accept that, till then, lage raho munna bhai, jeevan bhar, life after life after life. The true seeker is neither the support nor the supported. Meaning the true seeker must come to this conclusion. This is the connotation. That we were taking the support of the subject and the supported was the object, if you take it that way. And we decided that this subject is essentially the substratum. I is the substratum without which everything else other. What is everything other? The Panchakoshas, the Panchavayus, the Panchamahabhutas, all the gods, etc., they cannot exist. Now we are telling you that you are not also the substratum. Then who am I? You are all that there is. Remove these, that you are the supporter of the whole experience. As long as you take yourself to be the substratum, the validity of waking, dream, deep sleep, and samadhi will still be there. And there is every possibility that you will be pulled into one of those in your weak moments when you are not alert. फिर उसके बाद फिर पापड़ बेलो and then come back to this disposition of being the sakshi. We don't want to be sakshi also. We don't want to be the observer or the witness. We want to dissolve this witness also. This is the gross body, subtle body, causal body. This fellow, when he is attached, he is the jiva. When he is separated, he is the sakshi. We don't want to stay in this position. We want him to undifferentiated consciousness. When it is undifferentiated consciousness, from this point of view, when he looks, he doesn't look, he doesn't see these four. Then what does he see? He sees himself only. There is nothing else but him alone. Now when I use the word see, means, okay, uski aankh bhi hoti hai kya? Not like that. Now this is what this language that is being used is talking about something which cannot be conceptualized. It is not the purview of your intellect. See? It cannot be ideated. There is no example which can fully express. There is no experience in this creation, gross, subtle, causal, or para, which can express what is being said. We can give you some examples, but they are always incomplete. Because we will find some fault because it is in the relative. Relative cannot be perfect. When all manifestations are destroyed, nothing happens to the manifested or the manifestation. When all the manifestation is dissolved, destroyed, pralaya, when all the manifestations are destroyed, nothing happens to the manifested. Here Bhagavan says, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagad avyaktamurtina matstani sarva bhutani na chaham teshvavasthitaha na cha matstani bhutani pasya me yogamaishwaram bhuta brunna cha bhutastho mamatma bhuta bhavanaha. So many times we have said, read, if you understand this verse number 4 and 5 of the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you will understand the position of the undifferentiated consciousness. This is the standpoint from where Krishna Bhagwan, because nowhere in Bhagavad Gita it is written Krishna Bhagwan Uvacha. It just says Bhagwan Uvacha. We have, Ved Vyasji has said it is Bhagwan, Krishna, given that name to Bhagwan as Krishna. But Bhagwan is also Narsimha, Bhagwan is also everything. There is nothing that Bhagwan is not. What is that? The whole of this universe is permeated by me as unmanifest divinity, and all beings rest on the idea within me. So nothing can, all the multiplicity cannot exist outside the divinity. All the multiplicity of the waves cannot exist outside the water. Therefore, really speaking, I am not present in them. Now this becomes a contentional issue, that I am not present in them. Yes, he is true, because if he is everything, do you say, I am in my body? Do you say that? Because you are pervading the body as an individual, you are pervading the body. You never say, I am in the body. You never say, I am the body also. You never say, I am supporting the body also. You never say, I am the substratum till you come to the Vedanta classes. An ignorant person doesn't need to say that. It is an accepted fact. So from the undifferentiated consciousness point of view, from water's point of view, I am not present in them, meaning I am all that there is. Then where are the waves and oceans? They are mere imaginations on the water. Where is day and night? They are mere imaginations. Sun does not express as day or night. Sun does not manifest as day and night. Gold does not manifest as ornaments. Then where are ornaments? Imaginations on the gold. Then where are your body, breath, mind, intellect, and the waking world, dream world, deep sleep world, samadhi world? Imaginations on this undifferentiated consciousness that I essentially am. If you can digest that, good. It will take away every support that you have ever created for yourself, for the survival of the jiva. See? Then the second verse, Nacha matstani bhutani, nay, all those beings do not abide in me. But behold, the wonderful power of my divine yoga, though the sustainer and creator of beings, myself in reality dwells not in those beings. So, on one hand, he says the whole world is, in short, the whole world is in me, I am in the whole world. Then he says, neither the world is in me, nor I am in the whole world. And finally, he says, I am transcendental to the whole world. And the whole world of names and forms cannot express without me. So he's shifting positions. First, he talks from relativity point of view. Then he talks from Sakshi point of view. And last, finally, he talks from the undifferentiated consciousness point of view. Now, where are we at this moment? Relative point of view. What is our next stage? Sakshi. Work towards it. Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti Para. Lag jao uske piche. Day in and day night, 24/7, 365 days a year. That will prepare. It doesn't take too long. For a genuine seeker, it does not take long, if you're committed to it. What else is there to lose? You have been losing all your life. Childhood got lost, teenage got lost, everything is leaving you. So before this opportunity is taken away from you, because this opportunity is possible only in this human body. So before this body is taken away from you, or you lose this human body and cry, I don't want to die, I don't want to, please, Bhagwan, take charge. Take charge. And how do you take charge? Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti Para. This is fine-tuning ourselves. That's all we are doing. Fine-tuning. What is fine-tuning? Becoming focused, becoming single-pointed, becoming purified, becoming expanded. What will happen then? Then when you come to this satsang with that preparation, immediately the spark will light up. If you have lived your day full on, carrying out your duties, then and then alone you are ready for sleep. If you are spend the whole day in laziness, when you come to the bed, you are only tossing and turning and tossing and turning, and you're thinking of sleep, but sleep is not coming. Why? Because you didn't exhaust yourself. Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti Para. This is the way of exhaustion. This is the way of purification. And with that preparation, with that exhaustion, with that focus, when we come to the satsang, then immediately the spark, and there you are. no lag. The moment the word touches your eardrum and appears as a thought in your mind, there and then you go beyond the thought. There and then. There's no lag. Lag means there is no distance between what is known and what that known is indicating. Knowing and being is one and the same. This knowing and being, when we say it is one and the same, this knowing is thought-free knowing. So even though words are being heard, the words are triggering the true knowledge. What is that? The undifferentiated knowledge. Triggering, indicating. That's the spark. Why did it light up? Because you are prepared. How did you prepare yourself? Vaikhari madhyama pashyanti para. So when Paramatma is referred to as, is most commonly done as Satchidananda, these epithets do not really mean the Paramatma. Are they useless? If it is so, no, they are not. They have a meaning, not in themselves per se, but as pointers to the truth, to one's own essential nature. So what is Om indicating? Your essential nature. What is Om Namah Shivaya indicating? Your essential nature. Om Namo Narayana indicating your essential nature. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, your essential nature. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, your essential nature. Aham Brahmasmi, your essential nature. Tattvamasi, your essential nature. Ayam Atma Brahma, your essential nature. Prajnanam Brahma, your essential nature. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, your essential nature. Ekameva Dvitiya, your essential nature. So words, see how many statements of truth I just narrated. But every one of them is indicating. So when I use the word Usha in my mouth, it is indicating the person there. The word is in my mouth. But the object of this word is out there in her home. Or when I use the word laptop, the word laptop is in my mouth, but the laptop is there. It is indicating something. When all these words are, what are they? They are words, they come and go. But what are they indicating? Are they indicating a concept? Are they indicating an idea? Are they indicating, are the words having the capability to reveal the truth? Not until and unless we are subjective when we are taking these statements of truth. So when we are saying Ekameva Dvitiya, oh, I am the one, without the second. Which means when you take that statement, you have accepted that there was multiplicity, now you are one without a second. So you are repeating it to yourself again and again. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, you have accepted that there is a variety in this whole world and everything is pervaded by the Brahman. That means Brahman is also there and whole world is also there. Same way, when we say Sat, Chit, Anand, Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, Swarup. So when we say Nitya, we have accepted there is Anitya, so we are thinking of Nitya. Shuddha, there is Ashuddha, so we are thinking of Shuddha. Why? Remember the previous chapter? Vritti Jnanam was invoked to counteract the Vritti Ajnanam, correct? Same thing is happening here. So now catch the principle that all words, the positive words, are used to counteract the negative words or the words, thoughts of ignorance. That which establish multiplicity, we are replacing them by those words which establish unity. So we use the Sat. Truth is not Sat. What is truth? What is undifferentiated knowledge? It is that which is beyond Sat and Asat. It is that which is beyond Chit and Achit. It is that which is beyond Anand and Dukkham. If you say to the sun, hey, thank you for heat and light, what will sun say? I don't know what is heat and light, because it is its nature. He has never given it a name, heat and light. Same way, the truth also, the undifferentiated knowledge also doesn't know that it is Satchidanand Swarup, that it is Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swarup. We are saying it to convince ourselves. And we are using those words to counteract the Ajnana Vritti. Sat is the Jnana Vritti. It is used to counteract the Ajnana Vritti called Asat. Chit is the Jnana Vritti. It is used to counteract the Ajnana Vritti called Achit. Anand is the Jnana Vritti, which is used to counteract the Ajnana Vritti Dukkham. Nitya is the Jnana Vritti or Vritti Jnanam, which is used to counteract the Vritti Ajnanam, which is Anitya. Shuddha Ashuddha, Buddha Abuddha, Mukta Amukta. And this is the topic that is going to be dealt with in this chapter of chapter 5, titled Satchidananda Padatrai Vivarana. What's the time? Ho gaya time. We'll just read the first verse and then we'll look at it next week. Satta prakasha sukha yati hiti une lekha jaise vishapane visha vishanahi. Satta, existence, prakasha, consciousness, and ananda, bliss. So satta prakasha sukha. Satta is existence, prakash is consciousness, sukha is ananda or bliss. Have no meaning in themselves. Ya tihi tihi une lekha. Have no meaning in themselves, as poison is not poisonous to the poison itself. So these words, Satchidananda, Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swarupa, they have no meaning. They're only in the relative realm. What it is, how we should think about it, we'll pursue it in our next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.